So we're back. Can you hear me now, or is the live chat on? Can someone comment? Because you're back online. Just bear with me. Okay, right. So I think we're back online. Can someone let me know in the chat whether you can hear me or whether you can pass comments? Right. Okay. Brilliant. So we're back online. So so let me ask, Disclosure team, can you hear me? And T Nolte, can you hear me and comment all right? Okay, right. So we're going again. So this is fuck knows how many outtakes this is now, but we're going anyway. Right, brilliant. We're going. So let me introduce myself. I am the Left Leg Fight Club, and I will be going through the live feed of telling you how the Left Leg Fight Club came about and giving you a brief outline of how it came about, why it's called the Left Leg Fight Club. Some of you already know why, but some of you don't. But yeah, this has been really sort of a real life-changing situation for me and my family, my partner, and people around me. And I've had some great support from everyone. So anyway, let's get into this video now. So here we go. I am the Dids, Daryl. I am the creator and the master of the Left Leg Fight Club. So let's go. Let's smash this out. So on the 11th of November, I was walking through a recreational area in Rugby where I basically lost my balance and fell into a fence and slipped, and then regained my balance and fell and slipped on some leaves. My left leg went out. Emphasis of the Left Leg Fight Club. And my left leg went out to the left. So unannounced to me, I pulled it back into place, which was not probably the best thing to do. But that's what happened. I pulled it back. As this happened, I was with a couple of associates and friends when this happened, and they called me an ambulance, and the ambulance came out quick time, within about 20 minutes, half hour. I was in excruciating pain with my leg, and it looked pretty fucked, to be fair. So I was given gas and air. I was given IV paracetamol, fentanyl, morphine, absolutely loads of stuff. And then I was then stretchered across the recreational ground into an ambulance and taken to UHCW hospital in Coventry. This was quite early in the morning on the 11th of November last year. Went up and entry to hospital. I didn't know where I was. I was just like completely as high as a kite of all these sort of like pain relieving medications. And yeah, the pain was somewhat gone with well, my jeans pretty much cut off and my leg the size of a tree trunk really. Then I went straight into surgery where I had a external fixation put on my left leg, which basically looked like a scaffold pole, which was joining the bottom of my leg to the top of my leg with two fixed points. This was basically holding my leg together, the brachies together. At this point, they couldn't operate because it was too swollen. And after doing X-rays and only getting these X-rays yesterday, seeing what I was shown was just unbelievable. The whole leg was completely fucked from the knee down. Kneecap was completely smashed into pieces, almost like to the point where you could literally drop a glass on the floor. It was kind of like, well, I don't know. I didn't even know this until I was told this after my surgery on the following day. I then went on to Ward 52, which is a trauma and orthopedics ward, where this was quite a specialist ward for the nature of like injuries, you know, especially orthopedics and trauma. And there was a hell of a lot of trauma to my leg, which I will go into further shortly. But so this is where it all began on the 11th of November. So I had the surgery on the 11th and I was down for quite a number of hours. I got back on the ward later on that evening, completely out of my mind. Called my missus up and told her what had gone on and everything else. And that's when I found out what actually happened. So what actually happened was I damaged my meniscus. I think it's meniscus. I think it is. Yeah, damaged my meniscus. Completely snapped the fib, fractured the tibial platter in my knee, and there was also a bit of the tibial platter which was like basically just smashed out of the leg. So I spent 2 weeks with this X-fix on my leg, awaiting an operation which got cancelled 5 times, and they had 14 days to do this operation because otherwise things could have got really tricky. So they'd done the operation on the 14th day, which was then the 25th of November. In this time between the 11th and 25th, I now had people come and visit me. My head was completely fried, 5 cancellations, completely just isolated in the side room for 5 days on my own, which was not great, but I managed to deal with it. And then I got put on a ward, like a bay in the same ward on Ward 52. They did my operation, which took around about 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours, I believe. I also had 2 blood transfusions. But there was a point in the operation where my surgeon, a guy called Brian, actually said that this piece of the tibial platter, which is, I believe, the lower part of the knee, he actually had on the operating table, which was out of my leg for around about 3 to 4 hours, and didn't know what he was going to do with it. At this point, it was quite a crucial part that he needed to put this back into the leg, because essentially I could have had my leg amputated at this point. And even this was still ongoing for a number of weeks after that. It was basically cut and dry whether I was actually going to lose my leg. my left leg, emphasise the left leg fight club, this is how it came about, because I was actually fighting to keep my left leg, and even still was up until literally about a month ago. So the surgeon like literally worked wonders on my leg, and he said it was one of the hardest operations that he's ever performed in the 11 years of him being a surgeon, and he does actually specialise in knees and hip replacements. He said it was one of the worst cases he'd ever seen, but he did an absolutely fantastic job. So thanks to Brian, he basically saved my leg, and so yeah, in there is a shed load of pins. There's 5 or 6 plates. The only way I can describe it from you is looking at the x-rays. Is if you ever imagine going into your garden shed and your father or your grandparents asking you to typically get the jar of nails and screws, which obviously, your granddad or your dad would obviously years ago would put like sort of screws and nails into a jam jar typically. I mean, that's what mine did. I don't know about yours. When I was a kid, that's what he'd done, put nails and screws into a jam jar and put them up on a shelf. That's basically what my leg looks like from the inside, from the x-rays, from sort of like the lower knee down, the calf of it. It just looks fucking mental. I'm completely honest with you, but so yeah, that was that. That was basically that. Also, at this point, there was also a risk of the tibial tubularoscopy flipping, and they needed the knee to initially heal, or these pins in this tibial tubularoscopy to actually stay intact. And this was like also a life-changing. This also could have been a life-changing experience, because what actually this tibial tubularoscopy does, it actually allows the lower leg from the knee down to actually sort of talk to the top of the leg. So it basically allows it to move and bend and allows you to straighten your leg. So this was also essential. I started my physio on the 26th of November, which I couldn't believe because my leg was the size of a fucking tree trunk, and it was restrictive on moving the leg. But we started the physio. I progressed up until the sort of 7th of November, where they was happy to let me home, and I got discharged from the hospital on the 7th of December. At this point, I was obviously been in hospital for 27 days, which was no joke, really. It was literally so hard to deal with the ongoing issues of not knowing whether my leg was going to stay with me up until, even though I had the surgery on it, and this was like really put my head in a real bad place, especially with like mental health and just moving forward, thinking about numerous things, whether I'd be able to walk again, and whether my partner still wanted to be with me, because there might be a point in my life where I would not have my left leg but not have my left leg and maybe become a man with an amputated leg. This played on my mind for a number of months, and this was absolutely fucking preposterous for me to think this, and insane, but these are kind of thoughts that were going through my head at all times, and and it was like, it was not good for me to, and it was not good, for my partner and the people that were supporting me, who came into hospital, and people who were texting me, like, and the support I had, me telling them this and them listening and everything else. I got very close with friends that I thought that I wouldn't think would give me the support that I got from them, and even now these people are still giving me this support and this network of friends and family that have stepped up and supported me. Both me and Amanda have been absolutely incredible. So I thank you all. You know who you all are. Text messages, video calling, And even still now, people are still doing this on a daily basis, or you know, every other day, speaking to them, you know, and I can't thank you enough. You know, if there was something I could do for you, you know, I would. And you know, the continued support has been absolutely incredible. So thank you so much for that. But going back to obviously the 7th of December, so I got discharged from hospital where I came home. It'd been a long day that day, and then I came home, and then I sort of like slept for 18 hours that night because sleeping in hospital was just unbearable. You couldn't sleep in there. It was just like you meant to be in there to recover from illnesses and everything else. You're not getting recovery in there, especially you know when you're on a trauma ward, an orthopedic ward. There's people in and out. The number of patients changing on a daily basis was just unbelievable. You know, from the staff that were there were just absolutely incredible. You know, working 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day in, day out, you know, giving their support and care to people like myself and others was just miraculous. No words could describe the way that these nurses were working and the way they treated me, because it was just absolutely unbelievable. It was just so incredible to get this support from them, you know. But knowing the stresses that they was under, you know, understaffed and underpaid and not getting what they was worth was just catastrophic, really. And it even still is now, you know. But I'm not a politician. I can't, you know, give them what they deserve, but they definitely deserve the credit from me. And all the staff in the hospital in UHCW are absolutely impeccable. They were just lovely. But yeah, when I come home, things were not that great, really. It was kind of difficult to get used to getting back to home life and getting a routine in place. You know, that was really hard, and even more so with my partner as well. You know, for us to, you know, go through this life-changing experience together to try and get this routine and structure in place was just so hard. And you know, it was like we managed though. You know, we managed with what we had, and I can't thank my partner enough. You know, for that, for you that know her, she's been an absolute rock, and she still is. You know, and she's still supporting me now, still helping me. And you know, for that, she's just a one in a million. You know, and what I will say is, if you have got a partner that supports you and is like mine, all I can say is just treasure them, and you know, look after them, because they will look after you. Because I know mine does. And she's an absolute fucking belter. You know what I mean? She really is. She's an absolute. She's just a godsend to me. And I can't ever imagine life without her. But hey, but that's that really. That's going off the diverting off the subject a bit. But let's get back on track. So on the 12th of December, I was then gone back into hospital to have my sutures out my leg, because the surgeon basically put stitches in rather than staples. And when I went in there and had my sutures removed, it was actually took around about 3 hours, and I had over 220 stitches taken out my leg, and there was still a little bit of the wound which wasn't quite healed, and it was still quite swollen. It was over granulating, which I had some concerns about. So they took all the stitches out, and at this point I was just sent home with a dressing on my leg, and this was quite concerning because where this dressing was, especially on getting home, I actually banged it that day on the 19th, and I was quite concerned about it because this sort of like dressing that was on there was just filling up with like liquid and all sorts. It was kind of quite brutal, really. And there was no signs of like infection, even though I had like major concerns. And from the week starting the 12th going up to the 19th, I was phoning the practice clinic up, and then I was then told to basically go back to my GP and have the district nurses out, and you know, and a couple of times, and it was only then that, you know, that they said that, you know, they did observations. There was no signs of infection with the wound. There was no signs of me having a fever, no redness. There was just signs of swelling, which really wasn't a clear-cut indication of an infection. But lo and behold, a week later, I went back to the hospital on the 19th of December where I see my consultant, Brian, and he just basically looked at the wound and basically says, I'm readmitting you. And at that point, I just couldn't believe it, at the 19th of December. So I got readmitted back into hospital on the 19th, which really was not what I wanted. It was a massive curveball to me because I just started getting into a routine and it was obviously a week before Christmas. And I'm thinking, fuck, what's going to go on here? Excuse me. So that was when my surgeon, Brian, thought that and suspected that I had an infection. And, you know, fair play to him, he took a swab and I got readmitted onto ward 53, which was also part of the trauma team and orthopedics. I was then put on IV antibiotics for 6 hours a day for a week, which was real heavy antibiotics. They started to work. My infection rate, basically, the way they measure infection rate, they do it by blood tests. They do regular blood tests. So every day I was having blood tests to see what the infection rate was. So up on entry, I was around about 290 was the number on the what they call the CRP rate, which is obviously this is a number and I don't know what the CRP stands for, but it's basically it measures the rate of infection within your blood. So I was at 290, which wasn't that high relatively, because people can go into hospital in the high hundreds and almost into like the 1,000, which is obviously quite critical. But at this point, this was also another life-changing thing where normally when you get infections in your leg, what they do is they normally will take the plates and pins out. But due to the nature of my injury being so brutal, the surgeon couldn't do this. Because one of the key factors being because it was so fucked, that was basically holding my legs in. And if he did, my leg would just be non-functional. And he basically, as I found out, put his neck on the line to basically say that the way they was going to treat it was doing it in a way that they would treat the infection with antibiotics to kill the infection by obviously IV, which is not commonly known with the injury which I have, but it is with obviously like hip replacements and stuff like that. When you get infections, they do commonly do this procedure where they give you IV antibiotics to treat the infection to bring the levels down of the infection to basically so you don't have to have the metalwork taken out. But also there is a risk then that if they do go back in and operate again, there's also you're prone to infection again, and they didn't want to do this as well. And still at this point with the infection, I could have, potentially still lost my leg again with this. So this was like a double whammy for me, if not a triple threat, because obviously there was the risk of obviously, like I said from earlier on, of obviously the amputation from obviously the fracture being so bad, a risk of obviously this the tibial tubularoscopy flipping, which was the secondary thing of potentially losing the leg. And thirdly, the rate of infection of me with losing the leg. So at this point, I was just like, well, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know what direction to go in. I didn't know what direction we was going in with the surgeon. Even the surgeon was like, this is all like sort of, let's try this. Are you willing to try this? And I'm all like, yeah, if it's going to essentially save my leg, let's just go for it. Because this was not like a general practice of how they would treat this wound on my leg, how they would treat obviously going about fixing it. But you know, it was like, well, let's just go with it, and that's how it come about. That's how I went with it. And then on the 21st, I had another operation where they went into my leg and where I was in for 3 hours, and they basically washed it all out with saline, and that's when they fitted a vac pump, which is essentially like it's basically like a Hoover, and it sucks all the shit out of your leg, and it was like an external thing. It went in via a pipe. I had my leg wrapped up in like a big bandage and orange cling film. And basically, all I can say is it almost looked like I had a big packet of Jaffa cakes on my leg. And when you got a 34-inch leg, having half your leg wrapped up that looked like a packet of Jaffa cakes, it was a very big packet. And this tube coming out, it was kind of quite freaky and weird, and having to walk around with this sort of back machine, because what they done was I was on this back machine in bed, and I was bedbound for a couple of days, and then they gave me one which and then there was nothing come out of it, which was cool. They was happy about, because obviously they looked like they got rid of everything, all the infection, and cleaned it out. And then I went and had my fourth and final op on the 23rd of December, where they basically went back in, and this is also where I had plastic surgery, where what they done was they cut part of my calf muscle away and moved it round to the front of my leg by stretching it round to fill a cavity where this infection was. And they found out what the infection was actually staphylococcus, which I think is it's a kind of like a form of MRSA, but also it's like a bacterial infection which anyone can get, because it can live on your skin anyway, outside. At this point, I was still on the antibiotics, and obviously they was trying to find out whether if I could be treated with penicillin, because from a child I was allergic to penicillin, and obviously they had to do some quite advanced research and delving into my medical files, and at this point they found that I wasn't allergic to penicillin. I had penicillin, so this was the game changer, really, because the penicillin, there was a lot more versatility with treating the infection, whereas with the antibiotics they was quite sort of limited. So for a week I was on an antibiotic called vancomycin, which I was on 2 drips, 6 hours a day, because this antibiotic was so brutal. They had to put it through at 3-hour intervals, and the only way I can describe it was like literally having bleach and domestos at the same time poured into my body to clean this infection out, which is catastrophic. But it worked. It done the job. That's when they changed it over before Christmas, and I basically said, "You're not going home. You stayed in hospital over Christmas." So I was in hospital over Christmas, which was a real head fuck for me, especially because I wasn't going to be at home with my family. And it was the first time that I've spent Christmas, you know, not with my family or anyone else. And you know, if that's where it had to be, that's where it had to be, because there was nothing. It was beyond my control, and it was just that was it. So Christmas passed me by. I was still on the bank. I was still on antibiotics. I was having blood tests every 36 hours. You know, on all antibiotics as well. My levels went down from 290. They was going down quite dramatically from week to week. So the first week it went from 290 down to 220. So the week Christmas Day, I took done blood tests. I went down to like 220. Changed the antibiotics again just before New Year. Went down to 160. When I left the hospital on the 4th, I think I was down to about 100 on the CRP rates of infection. So yeah, things were going in the right direction. But even still, at this point, I was still at risk of obviously losing my leg. But it was only then when I found out that when I was coming home, I basically just thought to myself, I've got to deal with this. I've got to get on with this. And this is when I basically, as I say, I got my head out the stove. I basically had to deal with what was going on. It wasn't a good place for me to be with just knowing that I could have lost my leg, and this was toying on my mind, and I just had to stay strong and positive. And even though I had such great people around me that were, were saying, "Did Darryl, you're not going to lose your leg. You've got to go with this." My partner telling me this, the doctors telling me this, and everything else, and the doctors and support that I had around the doctors, the nurses, the physios, the consultants, even when I was in hospital, they designated me time to speak to them when I was feeling at a low, when I needed someone, because they said that I had borderline PTSD because of obviously the trauma that I've been through, and I just had to pull myself out of it. And it was just one morning, literally before New Year, that I pulled myself out of it, and I just think, I've got to fight this. I've got to do this. And this is when I was speaking with the physio, and I come up with the name that I've got to fight this, and I'm the only one who can do this. So this is where and when I got the name, the Left Leg Fight Club. It was when I basically woke up this one morning before New Year, and I thought, something, I'm the only person who can do this. I'm the only person that can get through this, and I've got to say, as positive as I can. And that was it. That was when the Left Leg Fight Club started, really. That was when I basically came with this name. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just didn't know how I was going to brand it, or how I was going to forecast it, or how I was going to move forward with the Left Leg Fight Club, and what I was going to do with it. But I just knew that this had to be something. And this is the thing what's drove me from where I was back then to where I am now. So where I was back then to where I am now. So the emphasis of the Left Leg Fight Club is really what's going on now, and where I'm at now. So this is obviously a start of something for me really big, and it means a lot to me, and it means a lot to others around me as well. But it really is incredible. I got out of hospital on the 4th of January, where I got discharged with what they call home hospital. So I wasn't essentially discharged from the hospital care, but I was discharged from the hospital. So at this point, I'd been in hospital for another 16 days when I went in on the 19th of December, and I got discharged on the 4th of January. So I've been in hospital for 43 days at this point, which works out to 6 weeks, and it really wasn't fun, but it paid dividends, and it's basically got me to where I am now. So from the 4th, I got discharged with still on oral antibiotics, still on all my pain relief, and obviously still on IV antibiotics. And where to the point where nurses were coming in every day for another sort of 5 weeks, 6 weeks in total. The IV antibiotics were put in place for. So by this point, by the point when the nurses were coming, I'd already done sort of 2 weeks of IV antibiotic, but then obviously they was then coming in for another 5. So this was when I basically had to get another routine put in place when I came home. And this was also another challenge for me and my partner to basically go through, getting a routine put in place for us. When the nurses come, getting set up, doing this, doing that, doing this, doing that, and but we've done it. So for 30 days, I had nurses coming in, giving me IV antibiotics, doing weekly blood tests and obviously regular checks to make sure that was okay, and everything else. So at this point, when I came home on the 28th, my CRP numbers were down to around about 100, which is obviously infection rate. And lo and behold, they got my infection rate right down with the antibiotics that I was doing. But the antibiotics did drop in obviously how much I was actually having, you know, because I went from like 6 hours down to like 2. I went from 6 hours in the hospital down to 4 hours, and then when I got home, it went down to an hour a day. So yeah, it dropped quite dramatically, and also did my infection rate. I then went on to basically get my infection rate down to 4 as of last Monday. I also basically found out that the tibial tubularoscopy is now safe and it won't flip. So I've now been told that there is no chance of me losing my leg at all. It's going to completely stay where it is, and which is good. I've now been fully discharged from the hospital as of Friday. So I'm on no more IV antibiotics, which is good, which is absolutely great. I'm also been discharged from the plastics team because the operation which I had where they moved part of the calf muscle around was successful. And I had another x-ray yesterday, and the healing is basically working really well, but I'm still not fully weight bearing. It's still a long road. I'm still got intensive physio going on, which I do daily, 3 or 4 times a day, which is around about an hour to an hour and a half each session. So I'm doing about between about 3 to 6 hours of physio a day to get this leg working, but it's getting there. So that's the emphasis of what's gone on from pretty much start to finish. I might have missed a little bit out, but all I can say is that, you know, I'm just so thankful for the support of UHCW. You know, all the people there, the staff, the physio, my surgeon Brian, all the nurses on ward 52 and 53, and the home hospital team, and but most of all, the support which I've had from my friends, and not the least, and the most important person in my life, my partner Amanda. The support that she's given me has been just life changing, and I owe a lot of people a lot of thanks and for everything they've done. But what I will say is this: is that if any of you watching this video want support, or ever get yourself to a point where you feel you can't cope or manage with things going on in your head or stuff like that, just please feel free to give me a holler on whatever platform it is. I'm on Instagram as Notorious Dids. I'm on Facebook as Darryl Tim. You know, give me some of you know my number, or just speak to someone. You know, speak to someone who might be able to give you that support. There's support out there for everyone. You know, there are people that can help, and that was the biggest thing for me that got me through this, was the support I had from not just friends and family, but from the hospital as well. And I'm absolutely flabbergasted by it all. So I don't really know what more I can tell you, because obviously I know time's getting on a bit, and I don't really want to drag on much more than what I've said, because I don't want to bore you really. But I am going to do another live feed, though, probably later in the week or early part of next week, where I want to just talk briefly and show you some of the images. Now, this is going to be quite graphic, some of the images. So if some of you are not sort of up for seeing these sort of things, then what I would say is don't come on the channel. But what I would say is it is quite graphic, but the way that the way that my leg's healing is just absolutely great. And I thank you all for all the support and the people that are watching this feed and commenting, you know. So thanks for that. But what I will say is this isn't the end of the Left Leg Fight Club. This is just the start. So moving forward with the channel, I'm sure that some of you might be wondering, where do we go from here? Because obviously the Left Leg Fight Club is, well, I've explained the story, and it's like, well, where do we go? Well, this is where we're going to go. So the way that I'm going to move forward is like this. The Left Leg Fight Club, I still have basically a long road to go down. So I will be documenting my recovery from here onwards. Hopefully I will be doing it with videos, with images, and obviously my progress for myself, you know, documenting my progress. At the moment, I'm walking on crutches still. I'm partially weight bearing, and I am not got much range of movement in my leg, but it's moving. I have been told that by my physio that he can basically get 90%, sorry, 95% range of movement back with my leg, which is good in a certain amount of time. But obviously that depends on how the wound heals because everyone's different. Some of you as well know that I am a very, very keen and avid mountain biker. I've been told that I will get back on a bike. So obviously I will be, excuse me, I will be obviously documenting some of my activities on a bike, but I will be changing some of the activities on my bike. So obviously before I was doing sort of kind of like steep techie sort of stuff, that's now going to stop, and I'm going to be doing like sort of bike packing sort of XC sort of stuff, and like adventure riding, which would be quite good. That will be coming on the channel. I'm also going to be doing sort of like maybe hiking sort of stuff, depending on how far I can walk. I might be walking with a stick, I might be walking with a limp. But the one thing is, I couldn't give a fuck what I walk with, as long as I can walk, because I know I've got my fucking leg, and that's the most important thing. So that's great, because you know I'll be doing something. We have to walk somewhere. It might not be far, but it will all come back. But what I can say is that I'll be smashing out the content as well. I'm going to also be doing a couple of podcasts with some people. I'm also doing some stuff with a couple of tattooists that basically, as you can see, I've got a couple of tattoos. I'm also doing some stuff with tattooists where we're going to be doing a merch line. I'm going to probably start with some stickers and then maybe move on to some t-shirts or, I don't know, clothing line and stuff like that, you know, which should be good. But, and then I'm going to be doing sort of interviewing people, friends and other YouTubers, and doing live streams with them or and stuff like that. I mean, I've got one lined up, but I don't know when it's going to be, and that's going to be with a guy who owns a bike shop. I'm not going to give you the information on that, but that's coming up. But most of all, and another thing is I'm going to kind of do it like a lifestyle channel as well. So document bits and pieces of my life, what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis and stuff like that. But I'm not going to say I'm the most normalist person, but far from normal. But what the fuck is normal nowadays? But yeah, you're going to see some weird and wonderful content on this channel. But what I would like to say is I'm going to close up now, and I just want to thank the people that have viewed and the people that have commented. I'd just like to thank you all for obviously, you know, listening to obviously what I've got to say. But most of all, what I would say is if you want to come on any of these adventures with me, then you're more than welcome. I'm going to be going up and down the country, you know, on the bike, doing different bits and pieces. I'm going to be hiking on up and down. I'm going to be literally just still living my life. as best as I can. Obviously, knowing that, yeah, knowing that I have got something going on with my leg, but it's still there, and I've got to live with it. That's life. You know, we've all had issues, and we've all got things going on with our life. Everyone's life's not perfect. What is the perfect life nowadays? For me, my perfect life is just living and moving forward with the people that I want to be with, knowing that there's people around me to support me, people that knowing that I've got a good network around me of friends, knowing that I've got the love of a good woman, knowing that she's there to support me, knowing that I've got people I can rely on, you know, and these people just come to me like, and rely on me, and I will do my hardest to try and support and help you in whatever way you possibly can, and I will even, I might even broadcast some sort of stuff like that, because I've got some plans as well which I want to share with you about, that I'm planning on maybe looking at doing some sort of stuff with counselling and mental health as well, and well-being. So I might do some sort of talking on that on the channel as well. It's going to be a very mixed bag of different stuff that goes on this channel, really. But the one thing it'll be entertaining. It will be good, and most of all, it's going to be real. I'm not going to give you no bullshit. I'm not going to be like one of these YouTubers that says this is the best stuff to have, for marketing and or whatever. So I'm going to be like reviewing like maybe bike products or stuff like that, but or like new things that I might buy or stuff like that as well. Doing the odd review here or there. And, I mean, it might be that you've heard something before, but whatever. It's just going to be all about me. And this is what the Left Leg Fight Club is. It's all about myself. It's all about where we go. So what I'm going to say is this is where we're going to go from here. I'd like to thank you all sincerely for joining me this evening, and it means a lot, because this has been a long time coming. This has. I've been meaning to start a YouTube channel for quite a while, but I've never got round to it. I was absolutely gutted last night when I couldn't get the live stream up and running, because I was really prepared for it. But also the other thing was that I'd like to mention this to you, that when I was in hospital, I became very, very close friends with a guy, and I'm going to dedicate this video to a guy called FRAZIER, who basically passed away the weekend due to ill health. He just basically stopped all his treatment. I mean, he was an absolute fucking legend, this guy was. I mean, he literally had 3 of his major limbs amputated, his leg and both of his arms amputated within the past year, and he just couldn't carry. He just didn't want to carry on, And he was in real bad health when I seen him. And I had a phone call literally 10 minutes before I was due to go live last night. And even if it was the fact that I had my account my account was verified, I just didn't think that was the right time to do it last night after finding out this news, because it kind of hit me quite hard, because he was like my hospital buddy. He was in the bed next to me for like the first 27 days. And then also when I went back in, he was like in a couple of days down, and I was sort of like communicating with him by the nurses and the physios. So, and obviously I spoke to him a couple of times on being out of hospital, and he was just like a massive inspiration to me, like, especially when I thought I was going to lose my leg. And the one thing I remember him saying to me was, Daryl, even if you do lose your leg, you've still got to basically carry on as normal. You still got to fight for what you believe in. You still got to move forward. So I feel like part of the Left Leg Fight Club is part of him as well. Especially like, when he said, like, you got to fight for what you believe in, and fight for what you do moving forward. So I'd like to dedicate this tonight to him. So FRAZIER, rest in peace, my friend. You've been a massive inspiration to me. And also, the people that have come up in the comments, every single one of you people that have come up in the comments has also been so supportive. You know, all of you, you know, I mean, T Nolte, you know, coming into hospital and, you know, phoning me up every day and keeping my spirits alive. You know, Jono Adams, you know, video calling me. Disclosure team supporting me with a YouTube channel and, you know, speaking to me regularly in hospital. Andrew Cullen driving all the way from Huddersfield to come and see me. And that's just to name a few. You know, Jordan Tiff, messaging me while I was in hospital. You know, you've all been part of this with me, and I know you're gonna move forward with me. So just thank you so much for all your support. You know, it really does mean a lot. But most of all, I just want to. There's just one person that really has been an absolute rock for me, and that's my Mrs. Amanda. She's been fucking incredible. You know, I love her so much, and like, you know, and I know all you guys, if you all you guys out there, you know, if you've got the love of a good, you know, you've got the love of a good partner, just look after them, and they will look after you. They really will. But listen, all I'm going to say is thank you so much, every single one of you, for tuning in tonight and watching. I mean, I can't see who the viewers are, but thank you to the viewers. Thank you for the likes. To all the people in the comments that have commented, thank you so much. You know, I love you all in this weird and wonderful way. And you all know, some of you know me up close and personal, you know, and well, I wouldn't say, probably not that up close, but personal, yeah. So that's kind of a bit of a fucked up thing to say, but yeah, you know. But listen, all I will say is this: is I am the Left Leg Fight Club, and this is how this is what I'm gonna say. The Left Leg Fight Club is going fucking forever. Don't lose your leg or head, and don't let your head go into a fucking stove like I did, because you can pull it out. All I'm gonna say is big love. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much to every single one of you for watching tonight. Appreciate all the comments. This is how we roll, and this is how I walk. And it's just like incredible, you know. Thank you so much to everyone who's watched tonight. I know it's not been a lot of you, but it's just like, it means so much to me that people have given me support. I've had people messaging me and everything else. And like I said, thank you so much, guys. Big love, one love. Peace out. Goodbye for now. Over and out. I am the motherfucking Dids, or some of you might know me, Daryl. And this is the Left Leg Fight Club. Bye bye for now. Until next time. Peace out. Left Leg Fight Club.